Nature bites first and asks no mercy. The storm crawls over the savannah, and the herd trembles as thunder splits the dawn. Mara said, "Breathe, little one," while the ground shudders like a warning. Ash coughs at first light, a thread of life against cold mud. Nyla snorts and wheels the flank, urging bodies to close ranks. Kade lowers his head, reading the wind for a hunt he cannot see. Sable laughs somewhere unseen, a rasp like dry grass torn by teeth. The rain thickens and tracks vanish beneath new water. Mara said, "Stay with me," as lightning stamps white bones onto the dark. The herd surges, then hesitates, trapped between fear and duty. Ash wheezes and the sky leans closer, heavy with consequence. Nyla huffs once, a verdict older than memory. Kade edges left, measuring weakness like a scale. Sable circles the invisible line, drawn to a heartbeat that stutters. Mara said, "Choose, Nyla," and the wind swallows the plea. Hooves drum, prayers without words. The storm answers with silence, sharp as teeth. The rain loosens the earth and secrets climb from the mud. Ash shakes once and nearly disappears in the grass. Mara said, "Stand if you can," and the plea trembles like a leaf. Nyla circles, reading fear the way elders read tracks. Kade paces the rim, hungry to move, bound by rules older than hunger. Sable maps the distances, counting bodies and breath. The herd speaks in silence, a language of shoulders and eyes. A gap opens like a mouth, and the storm slides its tongue across it. Mara said, "Stay with the herd, though no answer comes." Ash pushes against the ground as if it would forgive him. Nyla lowers her head toward the gap and closes it. Kade snorts and throws rain from his face. Sable slips to shadow, patient as frost. The sky exhales and the grass bows, and the moment waits for judgment. Thunder limps away, leaving the air raw and bright. Flies return like critics to a debut too fragile to survive. Ash tests his knees, and the world tilts. Mara said, "Lean on me," and lowers her shoulder like a cradle. Nyla marks the edges, a wall with breath and memory. Kade eyes the distance where vultures call a meeting with the sky. Sable tastes the wind, and finds it wet with infant fear. The herd shifts as if one animal with many hearts. Grass whispers stories of calves that stood and calves that did not. Mara said, "Your name is the sound you keep," and Ash coughs a reply. The sun veers behind a second wall of rain, promising nothing. Nyla stamps a verdict that sounds like mercy and death. Kade draws a line with his hoof and waits. Sable does not blink, and the day narrows to a single step. Wind threads the herd with a needle of panic and resolve. Ash lifts, sways, and steadies as if stitched by that same thread. Mara said one more, and nudges him toward the herd's heat. Nyla parts bodies to make space where none existed. Kade tests the edge and finds only Nyla's stare waiting. Sable advances 2 silent paces, a shadow that remembers hunger. Hooves drum a warning that could also be a prayer. The storm mumbles retreat, but puddles hold its face. Mara said, "Follow the breath, not the fear," and moves. Ash follows, each step a bright spark in wet grass. Nyla exhales and the gap becomes a wall again. Kade turns away, counting opportunities that might still come. Sable vanishes into the grass and leaves her laughter behind. The sky breaks in one place, and the light looks like a promise someone else made. Silence arrives, not the kind that soothes, but the kind that waits. Ash finds balance and the herd breathes as one. Mara said, "You are here," and presses her forehead to his neck. Nyla lowers her head, and the circle settles. Kade shakes rain from his mane as if shedding a thought. Sable lingers at the edge where grass keeps secrets for the bold. The storm leaves its footprint in every hollow and hoof mark. Steam rises like ghosts that do not yet know their fate. Mara said, "Stay inside my shadow," and turns with the herd. Ash answers with a step that is small and stubborn. Nyla moves them forward, slow, heavy with choices. Kade follows, because even pride needs company. Sable watches, and the wind returns her scent to the ground. The day holds, balanced on a thin bone that could snap without warning. The herd slows, pressed together like a single breathing wall. Ash leans on Mara, and the earth steadies beneath his hooves. Mara said, "You are not alone," her voice breaking under the weight of storm echoes. Nyla guides the herd's pace, measured and deliberate, each step tuned to Ash's struggle. Kade glances back, impatience tugging at his muscles, but he holds his line. Sable lingers in the grass, her eyes reading the rhythm of weakness like scripture. Ash falters, collapsing briefly, but Mara bends beside him without hesitation. Nyla waits, her scarred face tilted toward the horizon as if listening for fate. Mara said, "Rise again." The ground remembers strength, and Ash pushes against the mud with trembling knees. The herd exhales as one, a sigh of fragile hope. Kade stamps, sending mud flying, but reins his hunger for distance. Sable disappears, the silence of her absence heavier than her presence. Ash stands again, swaying but unbroken, and the herd closes ranks around him. Ash stumbles forward, his steps uneven but stubborn. Mara said, "Each breath is a thread, and you must weave it," her muzzle brushing against his neck. Nyla watches with quiet vigilance, her body a barrier to the edges. Kade exhales loudly, frustration woven into his breath. Sable emerges briefly from the grass, her eyes fixed on Ash before slipping back into cover. The herd hesitates, torn between patience and the instinct to move. Ash takes another step, then another, each one leaving a shallow mark in the wet soil. Mara presses closer, lending her rhythm to his faltering pace. Nyla stamps once, signaling the herd to continue at this fragile tempo. Kade flicks his tail, dismissing doubt, but not his hunger for progress. Mara said, "Walk as though the earth itself carries you," and Ash steadies. The herd shifts forward, bound by empathy instead of urgency, their shadows merging in the new light. The land opens, flat and endless, as though daring Ash to keep walking. His chest heaves and his legs bow, but he moves forward. Mara said, "Do not fear the distance. Fear only the stillness," and her breath warms his ear. Nyla surveys the far line of trees, her scar glinting in the light. Kade turns his head back, eyes narrowing on Mara's determination. Sable stalks parallel, unseen by most, but Mara feels her shadow pressing in. Ash slips once, falling to his knees, and the herd freezes. Mara nudges him firmly, her strength unyielding. Nyla stamps twice, commanding patience, and the herd stays calm. Ash gathers breath and rises, shaking mud from his small body. Mara said, "This is how survival begins," and guides him forward. The herd exhales, the sound a single breath that rolls across the plain. Kade follows with reluctant grace, his eyes unreadable in the rising sun. Ash steadies into rhythm, each step a defiance of the weight pressing down on him. Mara said, "You belong to this earth, and it belongs to you," her tone soft but urgent. Nyla holds the lead, her body swaying like a compass needle. Kade stays close now, his hunger softened by something unspoken. Sable lingers patient and deliberate, her outline fading and reappearing in the grass. The herd tightens, hooves drumming softly, echoing a heartbeat around Ash. Ash coughs, stumbles, but refuses to stop. Mara presses her shoulder into his side, carrying half his burden. Nyla looks back once, her scarred eye holding Mara's. The sky clears briefly, spilling golden light across the herd. Mara said, "We carry each other, or we are lost," and Ash exhales, steps matching hers. The herd shifts as one body, carrying the weakest into their center, the circle alive with unspoken vows. The herd slows as Ash begins to falter once more, his breaths shallow but steady. Mara said, "Every step you take is written into us," her voice heavy with both fear and faith. Nyla signals a pause, her head tilted to the wind. Kade lowers his muzzle toward Ash, his stare unreadable. Sable crouches low in the distance, hunger sharpening her patience. Ash sways but stays upright, determined despite trembling legs. Mara steadies him with her flank, her presence an anchor. Nyla steps closer, eyes fixed on Mara as if weighing her resolve. Kade exhales and turns back to face forward, restraint hard won. Mara said, "Hold, Ash, the day is yours to claim," and Ash answers with a single stubborn step. The herd exhales together, carrying the sound into the clearing sky. Shadows stretch long on the grass, and the circle around Ash grows stronger than fear. Heat breathes off the wet plain, turning the air into a wavering wall. Ash staggers as the ground tugs at his hooves like hands. Mara said, "Lean into me," and guides him through the drag of mud. Nyla slows the column, shoulders broad, eyes cutting the horizon. Kade tosses his head, a storm bottled inside muscle and pride. Sable glides in the grass, patient as drought, hungry as rumor. Flies sketch circles over Ash, and write a sentence no one wants to read. Mara said, "Keep the breath steady," and Ash answers with a thin gasp. The herd stretches, then compresses, a rope pulled taut by fear. Nyla stamps a single warning beat, and the rope holds. Kade looks back, measuring distance like debt and interest. Sable's laugh rides the wind and curdles the morning. No. Clouds thin, light hardens, and shadows lengthen like consequences. Mara said, "We move together," and the plain replies with silence sharp as bone. The ground hardens in patches, cracked like a map to places no one survives. Ash slips from firm to slick and drops to his knees. Mara said, up, and offers her shoulder like a bridge. Nyla blocks the flank to stop the crush from behind. "Semis." Kade steps in with a rough nudge that almost helps before it hurts. Sable lowers her head and mocks the stumble with a grin. Dust lifts where sun lances the plain and stings tired eyes. Mara said, "Feel the rhythm under the pain," and Ash shivers, then rises. The herd mutters in hoofbeats and breath, a choir of warning. Nyla swings her gaze across the grass, and the grass looks back. Kade snorts and reins his temper with a slow blink. Sable vanishes, leaving only the taste of risk in the air. The wind dries the last of the rain and steals its mercy. Mara said, "One step, then another," and the map cracks wider. Shadows wheel above, and the sky speaks in the language of wings. Vultures spiral, tallying futures, and the herd feels counted. Ash falters and the flock dips lower like a verdict. Mara said, "Ignore the sky, listen to the ground," and steadies him. Nyla threads the herd into a tighter braid, edges sealed against panic. Kade pushes forward, then back, caught between speed and duty. Sable trots nearer, hips loose, eyes bright with arithmetic. Dust gusts, and the world turns the color of bone. Mara said, "Hold the line," and the line answers with hooves. Ash stumbles again, but his head stays up like a promise. Nyla snaps a glare at Kade and he swallows his hurry. Sable's laugh comes thinner now, closer, edged with salt. The birds circle and write a name that no one speaks. Mara said, "He is not ready to surrender," and the dust agrees. Wind turns dry and sharp, and the grass answers with a hiss. A broken gully opens ahead, shallow but cruel. Ash steps toward it and the earth shrugs him back. Mara said, "Follow my footprint," and lays a path one hoof at a time. Nyla slides to the far edge to guard the crossing. Kade cuts across the front, impatient, then stops at Nyla's stare. Sable drifts to the parallel lip of the gully and smiles at gravity. The herd wavers, mass tilting toward fear, then away. Mara said, "Now," and Ash sets his weight where her print waits. The bank crumbles a little, but holds with a groan. Nyla chuffs once, and bodies adjust like a practiced machine. Kade exhales, the sound rough as flint, and yields the lane. Sable paces, measuring collapse that never quite arrives. The gully passes under them but leaves its teeth in the mind. The light leans toward evening, and everything sharpens with hunger. Ash breathes like a bellows trying to remember its rhythm. Mara said, "Stay in my shadow," and casts it long and sheltering. Nyla lifts her head as a harsh chuckle cuts the wind. Kade freezes, hooves biting the dirt, eyes gone hard. Sable steps into view, no longer shy, and calls once for company. Grass parts, and the echo comes back with teeth. The herd quivers, then locks, a shield around a single voice. Mara said, "Do not run," though every muscle begs to fly. Ash sways, tips, then rights himself on stubborn will alone. Nyla advances one step, and the ground seems to nod. Kade angles toward Sable, drawing her eye, daring a mistake. Sable laughs again, then lowers, coiling like wire. The plain holds its breath, and the night begins early. The sun lowers, bleeding orange fire across the plain, and shadows stretch like warnings. Ash trembles, his legs betraying every secret of weakness. Mara said, "Stay close, my breath is yours," her body curving around his frailty. Nyla halts abruptly, scar catching the light, ears pricked to a new sound. Kade lowers his head, horns glinting, muscles taut as rope. Sable appears openly now, eyes burning with a hunger sharpened by patience. Whoa! Behind her, smaller figures break the grass, cubs trailing not hunters, but heirs of survival. Mara exhales sharply, confusion tugging her heart. Nyla stamps, uncertain if this is hunt or lesson. Ash sways and steadies, staring at the cubs with wide eyes. Kade snorts, torn between rage and reluctant awe. Sable's laugh is softer now, closer to a mother's call than a predator's taunt. Mara said even danger carries its own burden, and silence falls heavy as the truth. The herd shuffles, restless, caught between instinct and confusion. Ash presses tighter against Mara, his eyes unblinking, filled with new questions. Mara said, "The enemy wears many faces, though doubt clouds her tone." Nyla moves forward, blocking with her bulk, uncertain of the rules now revealed. Kade grinds his hoof into the soil, his body swaying, ready to strike but restrained by something unseen. Sable nudges one cub forward, her gaze locked on Mara with a challenge not of teeth but of recognition. The cub trips, tiny legs sinking in the wet soil, and whimpers with fragile defiance. Ash exhales, a sound close to a cry, mirrored in the cub's trembling throat. Mara said, "He is no different than you," and the herd breathes uneasily. Nyla shudders, torn between protection and mercy. Kade shakes his mane, eyes hard with disbelief. Sable waits, her stillness sharper than any attack. The air grows heavy, and silence folds the plain like a blanket. Ash steps forward once, curiosity outweighing fear. Mara said, "Not yet," her voice a tether holding him back. Nyla flares her nostrils, reading danger that now feels blurred. Kade shifts sideways, trying to measure strength against uncertainty. Sable licks the muzzle of the smaller cub, her teeth hidden, her eyes unreadable. The cub gazes at Ash, a mirror of frailty wrapped in fur and bone. Mara lowers her head, torn between instinct to shield and the shock of recognition. Nyla growls low, uncertain if mercy is weakness or wisdom. Ash said, "He is small," the words a fragile bridge across the divide. Kade snorts, disdain searing the air. Sable's laugh returns, softer, almost weary, as if mocking the cruelty of choice. The plain waits, the horizon darker now, holding secrets the herd is not ready to face. Darkness thickens, drawing edges sharp, dull. Ash wobbles, but plants his hooves, his eyes fixed on the cubs. Mara said, "The line is thin, and tonight we walk it," her voice steady but aching. Nyla raises her head, body braced like a wall against time itself. Kade thrusts forward suddenly, horns glinting, a burst of instinct, but halts when Sable does not flinch. The cubs press closer to Sable's legs, their bodies trembling, but their gaze unyielding. Mara exhales, and the herd stiffens, every breath caught in her paws. Nyla stamps once, the sound like a question against the silence. Ash steps forward again, and Mara blocks him with her flank, heart pounding louder than the storm before. Sable growls, low and guttural, not threat but warning. Kade said, "This is madness," his voice breaking. The air holds fragile, a balance between mercy and massacre, one moment away from collapse. The first stars flicker awake, indifferent eyes to the conflict below. Ash steadies, caught between two truths, prey and predator, both cradle life. Mara said, "Even shadows bear young," her tone cracked by revelation. Nyla shudders, her scar catching faint starlight, torn between instinct and compassion. Kade paces, fury beating against walls built from confusion. Sable nudges her cubs, pulling them backward into the grass, her gaze fixed not in malice but recognition. Ash exhales, trembling, his eyes following the cubs until darkness swallows them. Mara presses her forehead against his neck, anchoring him to the herd. Nyla lowers her head and exhales, the sound heavy as stone. Kade shakes his horns at the sky, refusing the weight of blurred truths. The herd shifts, uneasy, their circle tighter than before. The plain whispers nothing, and the stars remain mercilessly still. Night deepens but does not rest. Ash struggles forward, hooves cutting shallow grooves, breath ragged but unbroken. Mara said, "Do not surrender, the herd's pulse beats for you," her flank brushing him steady. Nyla halts suddenly, scar gleaming beneath starlight, ears slicing through the wind. Kade freezes, horns angled, tension coiled into silence. Sable steps back into view, her cubs gone, her form shadowed, yet sharpened. The herd compresses like lungs drawing their last gasp. Ash stumbles and Mara braces, pushing him upright with her body. "Nyla," said, "the circle must hold," her voice sharp with command. Kade growls low, a sound scraped raw, his hunger replaced by fury. Sable laughs, a cruel hymn to survival, and lunges forward. Ash gasps, eyes wide, his world collapsing into motion and fear. Mara roars and surges, her body between death and fragile life. The plain erupts, silence shattered, the climax beginning in fire. The herd erupts, hooves striking earth like thunder. Ash collapses to his knees, swallowed by chaos, but Mara covers him, body bent into shield. Mara said, "Hold to me," her voice drowned by roaring hooves. Nyla surges forward, colliding with Sable, scar flaring with fury. Kade charges from the flank, horns carving arcs into the air, rage unbound. Sable twists aside, her laugh drowned by the thunder of bodies. Ash gasps, smothered by dust, yet his eyes burn with fire unclaimed. Mara braces against trampling feet, her body struck by shoulders, yet she stands. Nyla bellows, her voice heavy with both anger and command. Kade slams forward again, dirt exploding beneath his weight. Sable lunges low, teeth flashing, hunger returning with vengeance. Ash trembles, waiting for the teeth, yet clinging to Mara's heat. The sky burns black and silver, stars flickering like broken glass. Chaos condenses into a storm of bodies. Ash lies pressed against mud, vision blurred, the world beating above him. Mara said, "Rise when I fall, not before," her breath torn by strain. Nyla slams Sable again, scarred face fierce, hooves grinding soil. Kade bellows, horns striking sparks as they scrape against bone and stone. Sable darts, her body slick with strength, laughter gone, now replaced by fury. Ash claws at the ground, legs trembling, seeking light where dust drowns stars. Mara shields him, shoulders trembling, her body struck again by the herd's surge. Nyla commands with each motion, her stance wide, anchoring against collapse. Kade roars again, his fury raw, his eyes locked on Sable's blur. Sable lunges low, aiming for Ash, hunger sharpened to a knife. Mara said, "Not him," her voice like thunder. Dust explodes, and the battle bleeds into the night. The air fractures with cries. Ash rises weakly, pulled by Mara's vow echoing in his bones. Mara stumbles, flanked torn, her strength leaking red into dust. Nyla bellows, her scarred face wild, driving Sable backward with force. Kade circles, rage thick, hooves cracking soil like thunder. Sable snarls, no laughter left, hunger sharpened into desperate survival. Ash steps forward, wobbling, defiance trembling in his frame. Mara said, "Stand now, or be forgotten," her voice cracked by pain. Nyla slams into Sable again, horns scraping hide, earth shuddering. Kade lunges from the flank, horns aimed with fury sharpened by loyalty. Sable spins, blood painting her muzzle, her eyes feral fire. Ash exhales, chest heaving, his eyes locked on Mara's wound. Mara lowers her head, pressing against him, a final gift of strength. The plain screams with dust, blood, and firelight stars above. The climax crashes to silence. Ash stands shaking, breath shallow but unbroken. Mara collapses, body sagging, her flank heavy with loss. "Mara," said Liv, "even when I cannot," her eyes closing with the weight of love. Nyla halts, chest heaving, scar dark under dust. Kade lowers his horns, his rage dissolving into silence. Sable retreats, her body torn, eyes burning not with victory but defeat. Ash sways, pressed against Mara's still body, his breath breaking. Nyla steps close, her head lowered, honor written in silence. Kade exhales, his stare fixed on the calf now standing alone. Ash lifts his head, eyes wide, tears of survival in their shine. The herd gathers, their circle closing tight, grief pressed into strength. The stars burn cold, indifferent, as the plain whispers with silence. The climax holds, and nothing will be the same again. Dawn bleeds across the horizon, pale light spilling over the plain where silence reigns. Ash stands trembling beside Mara's still body, his chest heaving with shallow breaths. Nyla said, "We must carry forward," her tone carved by grief and duty. Kade lingers, horns lowered, his anger softened into weary silence. Sable's shadow is gone, retreating with the night, leaving scars deeper than her bite. The herd gathers, eyes heavy, bodies pressed close, the circle closing tighter. Ash nudges Mara's flank, but her warmth has faded into the earth. Mara's words linger in him, a whisper urging steps when his heart breaks. Nyla lowers her head, brushing Mara once in silent farewell. Kade exhales hard, a sound of mourning disguised as breath. Ash steadies, fragile but upright, his small body lit by the first touch of day. The plain waits, quiet, as if holding the weight of loss in its soil. Ash takes one step, hesitant, the sound too small against the vast plain. Mara's absence presses on him, a shadow heavier than night. Nyla said, "She walks in you now, her scar catching dawn's light." Kade moves forward, his frame shielding the calf without words. The herd follows Nyla's signal, hooves pressing into damp soil, carrying memory and rhythm. Ash falters but straightens, eyes fixed on the light spilling forward. The ground remembers Mara, every hoofprint echoing her sacrifice. Nyla breathes deep, her exhale a command for endurance. Kade shakes his mane, not in defiance but to release the last of fury. Ash steadies, each step a defiance written into the dust. "Own!" The herd surrounds him, not out of pity, but out of vow. Nyla said the day belongs to those who endure, her voice low but firm. The horizon glows brighter, promising nothing but survival. Ash sways with exhaustion, but the herd carries him in its rhythm. Mara's loss carves silence into every step, yet her strength beats in his chest. Nyla moves with certainty, her scarred face stern, the herd's compass fixed. Kade scans the horizon, every twitch of his body now vigilance, not rage. Ash stumbles, knees folding, but Nyla slows the pace, giving him time. Dust rises behind them, marking a trail of survival through grief. Mara said once, "The earth remembers," and now Ash presses his hoofprints as proof. Nyla stamps once, signaling calm, her leadership quiet but unyielding. Kade exhales, his eyes softening as they fall on the calf's resolve. Ash lifts his head, meeting the sky with trembling defiance. The herd follows, shadows lengthening, hearts heavy but unbroken. The wind carries silence, not threat, as if honoring what was given. Ash pushes forward, his chest rattling, but his eyes sharp with memory. Nyla steadies the herd, her every motion carrying weight beyond survival. Kade edges close, his bulk forming a barrier against unseen dangers. The plain lies open, harsh and unforgiving, yet Ash does not yield. Mara's absence lingers like a wound, but her spirit moves in every step. Nyla said, "We live because she gave," her words carried in silence. Ash breathes hard, each inhale stitched with grief, each exhale with defiance. The herd tightens, bodies brushing, sharing warmth, sharing resolve. Kade lowers his head, no longer restless, but sworn in his silence. Ash steadies again, his shadow small yet unbroken on the ground. The wind passes through grass, whispering secrets of both loss and endurance. Nyla leads them onward, her scar a beacon in the fading mist. The day rises, unrelenting, but the herd moves as one. The day burns hot, shadows shrinking, the horizon endless. Ash walks with trembling strength, his body fragile yet unwilling to stop. Mara's gift lives in him, each step carved by sacrifice. Nyla slows the pace, her eyes set on survival, her scar shining like memory. Kade paces beside Ash, his flank brushing against the calf as shield. The herd follows, not leaderless, but bound together by loss and vow. Ash exhales, breath catching, but lifts his head to the vast sky. Mara said, "Live when I cannot," her words now his pulse. Nyla stamps once, a promise carved into dust. Kade exhales deeply, no longer rage, only duty in his stare. The herd presses forward, hooves drumming soft into soil. Ash steadies, his eyes meeting horizon, where grief meets resolve. The sun crowns them all, indifferent, but their survival burns brighter. The plain exhales under the cool breath of twilight. Ash moves with faltering strength, his steps stitched together by memory and loss. Mara's absence weighs heavy, yet her spirit guides each fragile motion. Nyla said, "The herd lives because you walk," her voice sharp but tender. Kade trails close, his silence no longer rage but loyalty sealed by sacrifice. The herd marches as one body, shadows stretched long beneath the dimming sky. Ash steadies, his head lifted against the dying light, fragile yet unyielding. The herd slows at a watering hole, etched deep by time, its surface silver beneath the stars. Ash bends, his reflection trembling, a survivor shaped by grief. Nyla drinks first, then turns, her scar glinting as if carved by fate itself. Kade lowers his head, his breath rippling the water, his silence an oath. Ash drinks, his muzzle wet, his body shaking with both exhaustion and triumph. Mara's voice lingers in him still. "Live when I cannot." The herd gathers, their shapes dark against the glowing water. The night deepens, stars burning sharp, and silence wraps the herd. Ash curls near the center, his body fragile, but spirit fierce. Nyla stands guard, her eyes sweeping horizon lines for threats unseen. Kade shifts beside her, his horns gleaming under starlight, his body a wall. The herd rests in unison, breath rising in soft clouds, bound by survival. Ash exhales, his dreams filled with Mara's voice, not gone but echoing eternal. The plain holds its silence, watching, waiting for dawn. Dawn returns, soft and relentless, painting the plain with pale gold. Ash rises, his legs trembling, but his spirit unbroken. Nyla said, "Walk, for the herd carries your name now," her scar flashing bright in sun. Kade exhales, stepping close, his flank brushing Ash in silent support. The herd gathers, their formation steady, every step a hymn to survival. Ash lifts his head, eyes wide, carrying Mara's memory into light. The plain opens before them, vast, merciless, yet filled with promise. The herd advances into the horizon, their shadows long under morning sun. Ash walks within the circle, frail yet unbroken, the echo of survival itself. Nyla leads with scarred head high, her steps steady as stone. Kade trails close, silence bound to loyalty, his strength no longer his alone. The herd moves together, bonded by loss and vow, each hoofbeat a memory. Ash exhales, his voice silent, but his presence thunderous. The sky opens wide, indifferent, but the herd walks on, unforgotten and unafraid.